Hello, this is Father. It's been a minute. Uh, anyway, I'm gonna start this video with Spy because I have uh, a new person sitting in the my in the Discord that's trying to learn Wyckoff and wanting to learn about things. So uh, things you start to notice, like earlier, I had this marked up different, but right now, after the end of the today. Actually, during this point here, I actually marked this. I could tell it was going to be different. Uh, it was like, okay, this makes more sense. So, uh, what we've got here is the beginning of a range, and uh, when this part came down here, uh, it caused its own quasi pattern, and then this was a buying climax that settled into a selling climax. So, we had a selling climax here, and it's like it caught itself on a distribution thing. So a lot of people would call this a change in character based on the behavior. And so it starts out with its supply basically coming back from over here. It's preliminary supply. Okay. So in a pattern like this, the first part you have is an automatic reaction. And then you mark this like you do the selling climax. So I had the selling climax marked and the AR marked, automatic reaction. Then down here, this is a strength test. When it goes down, seeing how strong it is, pushing down. It's the first thing that it does. And as you can see, no volume really spiked, so pretty good strength test. And then it comes up. This part's unnamed in accumulation because that's what I believe we're in. It's just you mark the top of it, and then the next move is to be strength test in phase B. So now we have made that today, strength test in phase B. Okay, so this Wyckoff is very standard, but there's one thing that's very curious. This pattern here looks very much like an LPS. This is usually how, like, after a spring happens, when it comes out, it usually makes this pattern here. You'll see it a lot on Wyckoff or on even AMC before it takes off. It will make this pattern, and then it will shoot up and make a sign of strength, and then it'll come back down the pattern, go like this, and take off. So if I have this slightly off, that's what will happen, and it will just take off. But more than likely, what I see happening is it coming back up to retest the highs, barely going over this, going a little bit sideways up here before coming back down, and in this downward movement, catching a spring down here. Well, actually, I'll do it a little bit better on the way up. I see it coming up like this, retesting, coming up, making a very similar LPSY that's like over on the left there, and then the SOS with the retests before going up. And it would actually be, sorry, I'll move this one down. There's a little stop along the way, so I just want to make sure that, this could be, it could go a little further to the right, plus there's a stop on the way down. I just want to record that that usually happens on the way back down, that there's a little boost up before hitting the bottom. Very similar to this over here. So if I'm off, that's because this is this right here. So yeah, that seems like the most likely to me of what you'll see. Um, they usually call this an LPS and an LPS, kind of like this would have been an LPS and this an LPS. Last point is supply, so, and then it pushes up, but I think they're going to grab some more based on the accumulation structure I think they're doing. So, okay, on that, let's go back to AMC. Okay, AMC, we're getting there. So AMC, we're looking for a selling climax. Now I know some people are like, I don't want it to go below 8 or go anywhere, but it has to go down there somewhere. I don't know if it'll be 6. This is just my estimate based off of doing a fib retracement, and I'm not very good at doing fib retracements, so it's not my thing. I was just doing it as a guesstimate. I just know it'll go under 8, and the reason for that is this. Well, I'll circle it here. See the supply here? See how that did not stop this? It's not stopping action. Okay, so that is not our selling climax. So that means that from this distribution, we have not hit the selling climax yet. So this is more than likely a temporary buying climax, which will help decide how high it will go when it's doing a range to accumulate. It won't go over this, more than likely, is what it's setting up. But it's going to have to go low, and when you see a selling climax, you'll realize it by the volume going up. It doesn't matter if it's red or green. That's why my volume's white. You'll see a lot of volume, and I'll just go back through the history here to kind of show you. This here is a selling climax. So, as you can see, the selling climax, look at the volume. You see the difference? You need that to start a range, which this is a range of accumulation to push up. You have to have a cause for it to push up to sell off. So it doesn't go up until it gets a cause. Let's go further back, and I'll show you when this ultimate pattern from the top came down to a selling climax. As you can see, when it came down here for the selling climax, it had a lot of volume. Okay, so it's not too hard to understand. You can tell when it's been a selling climax, right? It's not like it's very hard to. It's pretty distinctly high volume, right? Only equaled by when it starts to sell off, right? Push up here, and then sell off up there. Push off here, sell off up here. And if you look, when this came down, sorry about the ad, it just hasn't done it yet, right? So what does that give you for a certainty? That it's going to go below 8 before it has a stopping. You can see here, like it stopped here. Not only that, but when they brought it back down, it had a second reaction. This one here, when they brought it down, again, it had a secondary reaction where it pushed up. So these volumes are very important. This shows the change in behavior, right? So this is not a stop. We're putting so much buying pressure on you, you can't go down anymore behavior. This is the complete opposite. we can go down further and it won't be an issue. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now we're going to look at APE. APE's starting to head towards 4, which is what I kind of thought, but I didn't think it would happen this fast. I kind of thought we would have a push-up reaction here. We did not. But if you see here, in the case of volume, they did have a slight. Okay, so when this whole thing started, you could see that they stopped it here, right? With this volume. This is the kind of like stopping volume you want to see. But then they immediately took it up and started selling it off. So you got all this selling volume. And while it's coming back down, they're selling it off, right? You see this volume, right? And they do this, these little sell-offs all the way down to where we ultimately land. And then this one doesn't have the stopping volume either, right? It's not until the next candle when it pushes up that it has a lot of volume. So it's pushed up and they bought on the way up here. They sold. And as you can see, the next volume candle is up here at the top of this. So they created this to sell off here. And this is a very typical distribution pattern where you got one more and the middle's higher and then another sell-off thing. And then the possibility of where it could catch, the first possibility was here. It didn't catch there. So the next possibility, in my mind, is going to be down here somewhere, and this very much resembles the very first this one here on this thing. It reminds me of this a lot, right? Has a very similar look to this, except it's going down further than the first selling climax. It has a very similar look to the AMC. So in my mind, based off the price, if you take the price into thirds of AMC, you can pretty much see the APEs staying at the same price level, right? 1/3 of AMC. So it's kind of following AMC's pattern of when it came into life, right? Just like this is here. APE is down here, right? So it's very similar, except we don't have this stopping volume yet. So my belief is this is probably now. I thought before maybe around 4. If it's actually staying at 1/3 and AMC ultimately comes down to 6, then we're probably looking at 3 for APE. That's when I'd probably be looking for high volume to come in on APE and people stopping it, or institution maybe coming in. Just based off of Wyckoff is what I see. And there's not enough information currently on APE to give a full idea of like when it was stopped, except the indication that it pretty much is doing following AMC, and but just as 1/3 of AMC. So keep that in mind. It may not be that big a deal. You might see a lot of stopping volume come in at 6 and really push this thing up. But yeah, wanted to get that out there. I know probably only 20 people are going to watch this because the length is pretty far, but I really did it for one of our newer people that are in Sweden, and they've been joining me in the Discord every morning. Now I have been going over SPY and today Apple with Clearly. I thought this might have been a stop for Apple on the height, and I was kind of right. It is, but it's just going to take a little bit further to drop. Take a little bit longer, it looks like. But it did catch. It may still go up, but it's more likely a distribution. but that's what I was doing with Apple. Might as well. Well, I won't close Apple for now. I've mostly been concentrating on SPY while waiting for AMC to start a cause. I mean, it's not really fun to track it or try to do anything with it when it hasn't even started uh, a cause. So this looks like I have a mess the way I drew it up, but it's something similar to this I think is going to happen. It looks like it's starting an accumulation phase. So if you were in on puts on this, I kind of rethink it. What I'd be looking at is kind of waiting for this spring area to maybe get some calls. And how you base that on there is if you mark up your chart, you can use these numbers over here to mark your chart up, that it will come above this but not go above the other unnamed thing. It'll go above the AR and not this. It can happen anywhere on this kind of plane. They call it a creek, but I don't know why. It's just because when you're coming back up, you jump the creek. And then, so what a lot of Wyckoffeans will do, like the more risk takers that are like me will get in down here in the spring, right? If you're a risk taker. So when it drops below 831, where everybody thinks it's going to, keep dropping forever, and it may drop pretty far because the above is, it could go all the way to, somewhere like 379 something. Anyway, they'll get in there, or a lot will wait, and you'll see the volume kick up when it gets to the LPSY, because institutions see that as the confirmation of what they're seeing, just like I'm seeing. All I'm doing is following how institutions control this thing, and so they'll get in during the confirmation after the spring, the less risk takers, right? And then the risk takers that are like completely averse will wait until it comes up here and has its sign of strength, and they know for certain that it's ready to take off, and they're not in a B phase anymore, which I would feel, pretty certain. So that's how you do it. This is more risk on because it could just drop, right? It could definitely just drop. Doesn't mean this is accumulation at all. This is a B phase that we're in. So the whole thing with the B phases is very hard to distinguish it between accumulation and distribution. The only thing is I kind of think that they've decided to kind of like change the character here to push it up some, and it may ultimately not be that much. It may not go up as high as it was, and it's only for a temporary reprieve, but it does look like it's going to go the opposite way now, to me. So anyway, with that, thank you all, and catch you on the flip side.